Aaron Judge is at it again, performing like the number one overall pick in fantasy. And Anthony Volpe just still disappointing. Well, we're going to cover these guys and more on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by Locked On Podcast Network, now the number one sports podcast network in all of the land. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Matthew Ane. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to hit the bell below to subscribe to the channel and give you a notification every time we drop a new episode. And if you're listening on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you're getting that audio source, make sure to check us out and hit the subscribe button. Leave us a 5-star rating and review. It really helps out the show. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your first bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. But all right, I got a great show for you today. We're going to be covering some Yankees, of course. Is Aaron Judge really worth the number one overall pick? Are we done with Anthony Volpe? We're going to have to get into that. And is Max Fried an actual SP1? Well, let's dig in. Let's start at the top. I talked about Aaron Judge, probably a guy that everybody with the number one overall pick is going to be staring down between him, Ohtani, and possibly a combination of others. But I think Ohtani and Aaron Judge are the two front runners as to who's the number one overall pick. And honestly, I wouldn't be mad at either or. Aaron Judge has had another phenomenal season, absolutely crushing it with 53 home runs, 137 runs, 114 ribs, 12 stolen bases, and batted a lovely 331. Just, having another incredible season. Dude's just a stud in all aspects of the game. Even the walks to strikeouts. Like, he is just an outright monster. He's gone back to back with plus 300 in the above 320 in the past 2 years in batting average category. He just keeps getting better with age. It's absolutely incredible. I'm gonna ride that wave literally till the sun comes home. I mean, look, Ohtani's phenomenal. He just gets more stolen bases. He's a 5-category contributor. But the difference is between the two, I feel, is Ohtani has no flexibility. He is a UT only. And in some leagues, when you have SP and hitter at the same one, then he's number one overall pick in every scenario whatsoever. But where they are two different players, the conversation becomes a little bit more slim, because now I can't just utilize him for pitching. I can't just utilize him for I have to pick. I have to use him just for hitting, which means he's stuck in my UT spot. Now, him versus Judge. Now, Judge I could put in outfield. I could also put him in the UT. It gives me more positional flexibility at that point. And it's a matter of preference for me. I'll probably lean more on the Aaron Judge side just so I have the positional eligibility and I'm not, locked in on one UT guy to start and still got all these positions to fill. So for me, from a team construction aspect of it, yeah, I want Aaron Judge over Ohtani just as a preference, but I don't think you can go wrong either way. It's just a different build and different team construction. And I just like the safety up front. But ultimately, you can't go wrong either way. Let's move on. Let's talk about Jazz Chisholm. Now, Jazz is a guy I've always liked. I've liked him as a talent. I think he's a good player. My problem with Jazz is he's just always just hurt. I mean, you look at it, the guy has never played 160 games, never even whiffed 150. Closest he's gotten is 147 in 2024 when he, was on Miami and then finished with the season with the Yankees, but still missed 15 games, and that's not great. Even this year, missed 32 games, which is not great. But when he's healthy, he's great, right? Like 462 at bats, 75 runs, 15 doubles, a triple, 31 bombs, 80 ribs, 31 stolen bases. The batting average is lackluster at 242, but I'll take it when I'm getting the other categories. 30-30 season and that short timestamp. Like, if he played a full season, the upside is ridiculous. The sky's the limit. Where do you see Jazz kind of going in the next season? Well, that's the question you got to ask yourself. What is the price that you're willing to pay for a guy that could ultimately be injured for 30 games and miss a month, essentially? And that is, you got to ask yourself, what is going to be the price that'll get you the ROP, return on draft price, right? Return on pick. And I don't see him obviously in the second round. I don't think he's a second round. I think you start considering him in the third, right? Where, he's a top 36 pick overall. And you're just like, okay, this is the area. His second base eligibility, he's crushing it, the 30-30. There's always room for improvement. Everything he's doing is completely sustainable. He just loves to strike out like there's no tomorrow at a 27.9% strikeout rate, but at least he walks 10.9. In points, he falls a bit, even with the 10% walk rate, because he still strikes out way too much. But in the head-to-head leagues, in the category leagues, and the roto leagues, those are where we're considering him. He's going to be good. Think middle of the third, beginning of the fourth. Like, that is the sweet spot for Jazz. And I think you can't go wrong ultimately because, the proof is in the pudding. We've seen it now. He's been really good. He's always been good. It's just a matter of health. He plays 130 games. I'm happy with that output. And there's room for even more run potential being that he's on the Yankees. As long as the Yankees can get their act together and bring more players in, because that's the other question of we need more bats in that lineup that are going to produce and then drive him home. And it's just really a matter of where he's in that lineup as well. But Jazz, ultimately, I think third, fourth round pick, and you're going to be happy as can be. If you draft him in second, I feel like that price is too high. There's too much risk to elevate him into that round when there's a lot more safer players that are going to produce around the same output, if not better. And, if somebody were to tell me at the beginning of the season, Jazz Chisholm is guaranteed to play 158 games, right, where they'll get a couple rest days, then, yeah, I'm drafting him in the second round. But you can't guarantee that. Never done it before. And we have a whole laundry list of information, of history to compare that to and place a bet that's safely on the side of Jazz won't play a full season. So, as talented it is, I just, you got to start weighing your options. But let's move on. Let's talk about Giancarlo Stanton. Bright spot. Obviously, you really didn't draft him unless you were in deeper leagues, but he was a great waiver wire pick. And when he played, that was the key part. And it's not because of really injuries. Yes, I think he had a couple injuries this year, but he was platooned a lot. Wasn't getting everyday playing. And that really hurt, to own him. But when he played, incredible. 249 at bats, 36 runs, 8 doubles, 24 home runs. Yes, 249 at bats, 24 home runs, 66 ribs. Again, that's ridiculous. Batted 273. The best batting average he's had since 2021, I might add. Now, obviously, half the at bats, but the home run pace is insane. Look, if he can find everyday playing, which Boone's don't even get me started. Giancarlo Stanton needs to play every single day. Bottom line, if he's not playing, there's a reason why Yankees didn't go that far in the playoffs. I'm sorry, but Giancarlo Stanton needs to get it in. I understand resting the dude, but it's why you make him DH a little bit more. Maybe he doesn't play, 150 games. Maybe he plays 130 games and he gets an off day once a week. I'm okay with that, and I'll still own him in fantasy for that. If I have to one day a week, whatever, and he only plays 5 games a week, yeah, I'm cool with that. Giancarlo Stanton is still worth it if he's going to put that kind of output, and we'll see. But right now he's going to be $3.99. Let's see what the game plan is for the Yankees and how they're going to utilize Giancarlo Stanton before we kind of like write the story of not drafting him because of how many games he played and how he was being platooned and all that stuff. But, if they start saying, hey, he's going to get more playing time, he's going to, crank up, higher and maybe play 5 games a week, this is where I kind of want it. This is where I'm going to take a bet, but he's still going to be cheap as hell. So that's the key part. So we'll see. He's going to be a great sleeper this year if we can hear something along those lines. And I'm going to be all over it. And I'm sure Dom is too. But coming up next, we're going to come into some of this rest of this team, Austin Wells and Anthony Volpe, and kind of what to expect from these guys, if at all, coming up next. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kick offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however I like to bet. Player props, building same game parlays, or even jumping into into the action as it unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keep an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, it's easy, and the best way to add a little bit more energy into your Sundays. So, you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app today by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. And look, I've been really bad over the last couple of weeks with my calls, but I will say this. Christian McCaffrey, same game parlay, all on him, I might add. Over on the rushing, I would say at least over on 50 yards, 50, 60-yard plus. I don't have the exact game line. That keeps changing. Anytime touchdown, plus 4 receptions and at least 40 reception yards. Same game parlay on Christian McCaffrey. Throw the $5 and make that thing count. FanDuel. But all right, let's get back into it. Like I promised, Austin Wells, catcher for the New York Yankees. And Austin Wells had a disappointing season for what we expected. For catcher standpoint, not bad. But expecting him to be like a steal this year, and he really didn't live up to the potential or the hype. 401 at bats, 51 runs, 22 doubles, a triple, 22 home runs, 71 ribs, 5 stolen bases, batted .219, and struck out like an absolute insane person. Look, Wells can get behind the ball and crush it when he wants. The issue becomes, how consistently and what is he really going to do? But there's some things in holes in the underlying stats that kind of make me feel like, okay, he's going to be a mediocre catcher at best and probably not a top 10, unlike the expectation we had coming into 25. Look, he makes great contact on the ball, 10.2% barrel percentage, and hard contact that comes at a consistent rip at 45.2%. All great stuff. But strikes out 26.3% of the time and only walks 6.7. Look, that mutilates not only batting average, but the opportunity to actually make contact, because he's striking out that much, which means he's not making contact with the ball. Yes, barrel percentage, but that's when he makes contact, not how often he makes contact. He also whiffs 27.4% of the time and strikes and chases 29.3%. Now you do that in with the high strikeout and walk rate, and low walk rate, tells you that, there's not going to be too many opportunities to get hits because he's just whiffing on everything. And he's just trying to swing at everything under the sun to get himself going. Now, yeah, when he hits the ball and makes contact, sure, it's going to be great and magical, and he's going to hit a home run or 2 or 3 in a single game, but then go cold for 3 weeks and crush you. So for me, Austin Wells is kind of undraftable unless we see a turn and an approach at the plate that I hear, and then I can kind of readjust. But ultimately, like Austin Wells at the catcher position, for me, I'm not really trying to touch with a 10-foot pole at this point. I think that, the hype kind of got a little too far with us, and I'm not afraid to admit it, but I am backing off Wells entirely at this point. And we'll see who the next, kind of last pitch catcher off the board is that Dom and I are going to be targeting to see if we can get some value. Let's move on. Let's talk about Anthony Volpe, the single most disappointing prospect I've seen in a little bit. Anthony Volpe came in as a guy, I'm going to steal 60 some odd bases. I'm going to, get some home runs, but not a lot of home runs, but enough home runs to keep fantasy managers absolutely intrigued. And I'm going to hit for average, and none of that came to fruition. Like absolutely nothing. So like let's get into it, right? Like especially this last season, he batted .212. Dude had 19 home runs, which was nice, but only 18 stolen bases. And the runs and ribs are putrid, like 72 ribs, 65 runs, like not for nothing. Like if he could just make contact with the ball and stop, doing whatever stupidity he has going on, he'll get driven in a bunch because then he'll start leading off for this team. And that's always the appeal of him. High runs guy, a guy that can also crush home runs. But like you look at it like, okay, his minor league careers, 44 stolen bases, 50 stolen bases, 33. Like that is what we really wanted him for, and he's done nothing with it. Instead, he strikes out an insane amount, makes zero contact, swings at literally everything, and just makes it hard to own him. There's not even a stolen base upside where, like, who was a good one back in the day that literally couldn't hit the ball for anything? It'll come to me halfway through the show. But ultimately, like, he's not even like a cheap stolen base kind of guy that, like, okay, I can count on him for 50, but he's going to mutilate my batting average and maybe chip in a couple home runs. Like, nothing. He just isn't looking great in those regards. Then you look at just like his batted profile in general, right? Yeah, he makes quality contact, 10.5 barrel percentage, but hard contact at 41.9%. And that isn't good. Well, I mean, it's decent, but it isn't good enough to get things going. And I'll get into that later. But like, he strikes out 25.2% with a walk rate of 7.2%. That's not good. He whiffs 25% of the time. It's just not great for a guy that's trying to battle his way back, like in terms of being able to be a reliable, hitter. He also ground balls 44.9% of the time, and fly ball ratio is meh at best, 26%. It's just not feeling great in the way his bat is swinging and making contact with the ball. Between striking out way too much, not walking enough, and running up the pitch for a pitcher and make mistakes, I can't see room for improvement right now. My guy needs a summer at Driveline, and it probably like a dog collar that zaps you anytime he chases or swings at something stupid. Um, because that's the only way I think we're going to break this habit of that Anthony Volpe has. Because quite honestly, it's like, dude, you should be a lot better than this, and you're not. And this is getting quite disappointing. Not only as just a Yankee fan, but as a fantasy manager. Like, you drafted him in dynasty leagues and expected him to be, this awesome player for yourself. Probably spent high draft capital, traded for him and paid high draft capital, and you're not getting any of that in return. It's ugly. I see it. I'm in dynasty leagues where guys are trying to literally throw him away now. Meanwhile, what they paid to go get him, ugh, it's a travesty. So Anthony Volpe for me is undraftable unless we start seeing, Yankees are going to let him lead off. He spent a summer at Driveline or correcting his swing, and he said he's going to, approach the plate different. Then I could talk about, okay, last couple picks of my draft, and I could take a shot on him. That's about it. I ain't touching him with a 10-foot pole, anything else. Let's move on. Let's talk about Jason Dominguez, another guy that really disappointed this year, and that Dom and I had some high hopes for. Now, in terms of like, performance and things like that, there's some good stuff, there's some bad stuff, and there's some Boone stuff. So he played 380 at bats, 58 runs, 18 doubles, a triple, 10 home runs, 47 ribs, 23 stolen bases, and had a batting average of 257. Not a bad stat line for the amount of bats. Obviously, I'd like a little bit more in the power category. I think he does have that kind of ceiling. But I like to see the stolen base numbers. I like seeing near 260 batting average of 257. And these are positive signs in the right direction. Now, is he going to get everyday play? Is he going to stay healthy? These are things we have to kind of look at. Now, there's some hollow stuff too in the bat, which can also explain why there was no power. We'll get into that in a second. Let's talk about just like logistics of him playing. He needs to get everyday play. He needs to be an everyday outfielder. That just needs to happen. If he doesn't, then there's no point owning him. So that's part one of whether he's draftable or not at all. Two, the bat needs to see some improvements. Barrel percentage is at 7%. We need to see that tick closer to 8.5 to be just relevant. The hard hit percentage is great, 49.6. So we can get the barrel percentage, which is quality contact up to 9%, 8.5%. We're going to start seeing some huge power surges, and especially hitting, half his games at Yankee Stadium. Going to be great. We need to see him stop swinging at everything. He whiffs 27.2% of the time and chases 30% of the time. Now, I get it. This is kind of truly his rookie year, if you really think about it. Tommy Johns took him out. Didn't really play until the end of last year, and barely because of Boone. And then this year is really his true rookie year. So I'm going to give him a pass in a lot of aspects of this, and I'm going to see what he's got next year. But the thing is, the price is going to be actually nice. I don't think he's going to cost higher than a pick 150 overall, which is going to be great. That's where I can start thinking about, okay, cool, he's a UT. He's my first bench guy. I love that. What I do like, too, in a rookie year, Eric's right, walk percentage at 9.6%. That is some good indication of a good guy not trying to to get not trying to strike out, but the fact that we're seeing the strikeouts at 26.8% tells me he's trying to get his head right and trying to make contact to get a groove to get going. And that also gets guys in. He needs a slump buster. Right now, I just need him to figure that part out. Little action of working on your swing, getting things a little bit figured out. It's going to be good. Look, ground ball percentage of 45.2%. That's actually pretty decent. And a fly ball percentage to mix with that at a 27%. I like that as well. Line drive percentage has to come up. It's only at 20.7. But, ultimately, he has potential to be good. So Jason Dominguez is a guy I'm going to be targeting later in drafts, and a guy that I think is a guy that we were just a little too early on, in all honesty. Coming up next, I got guys like Max Fried, Cam Shitler, and more coming up right after this. And all right, let's get back in it. Let's talk about some pitching now. Let's talk about Max Fried. Is he an SP1 after this season? That's the question. Where do you rank him? How do you treat him? Because he did have an electric year, and he managed to play and start 32 games, which is something that, quite honestly, he's done better at over the last 2 years. But there's been questions of health. 23 had some rough spots. 21, he played 28 starts, which missed about 4. There's been some questions. Now, if you look at it overall, the picture isn't as bad, but still, these seasons where he's missed long stints is concerning. Now, I also will say this too. This is a career high in innings, not even including the playoffs. So, something to keep aware of, but still, I want Fried. Let's read off his stats and kind of dig in. 195 innings pitched, 189 strikeouts, a 2.86 ERA, and a 110 WHIP. Phenomenal. A FIP of 307, so everything's kind of on par. He really did his thing this year. He looked awesome, especially being on a new team this year. Didn't let him affect him, in all honesty. All his pitches had great movement. Fastball velocity was sitting right under 95 miles an hour at 94.8 miles an hour. Average exit velocity against him was at 87.2 miles an hour, which is actually really good, especially games in Yankee Stadium. Like, this is the things that, like, you've got to be aware of. Like, okay, he's suppressing hard contact, which is great because you're pitching in a bad park. And if you're able to do that, you're going to be successful. And that's in any stadium. And then you do it in Yankee Stadium and you know how to pitch in Yankee Stadium. That's even better. Look, I'd like to see get guys to chase a little bit more, but 27.6 isn't too far off the mark. Gets guys to whiff about 26.6%, and strikeout percentage is about 23.6%. Now, let me tell you how that all kind of comes together, right? Strikeout percentage is key. How often they strike out a guy when he's up on the mound. Simple, right? Now, with strikeout percentage, I would like to see him get more towards, a K per inning. He hasn't really done that in his career. If you really look at it right, he's never really been a K per inning. He's always been kind of right under it by missing it by the mark by a hair. This year specifically missed it by 6. Now, we need that rate to go up just a hair, and we can see him get to at least a K per inning. But I think there's another level to him. I mean, the dude's still 31, going to be 32. That's young for a pitcher, in my opinion. They're entering their prime, but he's still really good. Then I love this too. The barrel percentage against him is 6.9%. Let's put it this way in perspective so you understand it. Barrel percentage for hitter, I want to see 8.5, right? That's a good hitter. 6.9%, that's a bad hitter. It's good. It's really good for a pitcher to have that. Then your hard contact percentage is phenomenal. 37.2%. You want at minimum for a hitter to be good, just to quantify for you, about 42.5 to 44% is really good hard hit percentage. He's well under that. That's great. Optimizes him not giving up home runs and him not giving up quality contact, which then leads to easy outs and produces the ground balls, which he does. 52.6% is how you are successful in keeping that ERA down in that sub 3. Now, will he finish with a sub 3 ERA? Who knows? But I will tell you this. He can pitch in Yankee Stadium. I'll start him anywhere. He's doing a phenomenal job. You need to draft him. Is he an SP1? Borderline. An injury happens, he's in a top 12 consideration. I think he's like 13, in my opinion. I have to do my rankings and really see, but I think he's 13 preliminarily. And then we'll look at as my rankings get finished, which I'll be starting soon, probably over, Thanksgiving break. That is the key part of when we're going to start seeing some things from him. And I love the possibilities. So Max Fried, right on the verge of being an SP1. Let's move on. Let's talk about Cam Shitler. Another guy came out of left field this year. Awesome. Absolutely awesome season from him. So look, 73 innings pitched, 84 strikeouts, a 2.96 ERA with a 1.21 whip. The FIP kind of scares me a little bit because it's almost a whole run higher at 3.74, but let's dig into what these kind of stats mean, right? So to mix in with that, look, the fastball velocity is a crutch. 98 miles an hour. That's stellar. Absolutely stellar. But like I said, the FIP was scaring me. Now we're looking at the xERA, and that's a 4.07. So it's a little bit more than a whole earned run more. That kind of scares me, which tells me there's going to be some negative regression. And then you start digging a little bit deeper into Shitler. You look at the quality contact he gives up. He allows guys to barrel against him 8.2%, which was I just talking about. Giving up, quality contact like that at 8 to 8.5. That's not good. Hard contact, hard hit percentage about 40.2. He doesn't really produce ground balls at 36.4%. So that's sub 3 ERA right now. If we, I think if we were to get him to pitch another 50 innings, I think we'd be closer to 4 ERA. If anything, then we would be on the lower end side of this. So that kind of combination scares me a little bit. Yes, he strikes out guys 27.6%, but then he also walks guys 10.2%, which is atrocious, I might add. So he's going to get guys on base. He's not going to get himself out of trouble at some point. His luck is going to run out. And then therefore, he is going to get crushed and have an exasperated ERA. Now, let's see what improvements happen. Let's see what spring training brings. But right now, my early evaluation of Cam Shitler is he is not a top. He's not like a guy I'm going to be kind of targeting for at least until my SP 5-6 range is kind of like my first reaction kind of type deal. Look, I'm a realistic player. I'm fantasy first. My real baseball team second. I'm completely honest with myself and with you. So like I am not honing in on this kid at all because I think there is some serious negative regression unless we see otherwise. We see him starting to do some other things. Like we need to see a lot more improvement from him because I feel like he got very lucky this year. He literally lived on his fastball 54% of the time and the cutter 20% of the time, and that curveball, which is his third pitch, 14.9% of the time, that had a 275 batting average. And all his other pitches, the other three pitches he has between curveball, sinker, and sweeper, all had high batting averages against it. And that is not good. So he needs to work on that because being a two pitch pitcher, which with fastball and cutter not being too much of a difference maker, in my opinion, like that's where I feel like, okay, there's potential to just get lit up. And therefore, like I said, fifth, but mainly sixth, seventh, those are the ranges. Deeper leagues, he's going to be your fifth. 12 and under, he might be your 6, 7. And then I'm kind of okay with it. But I have a feeling the price is going to be too high. And therefore, he might be on my bust list because I'm not going to be touching him with a 10-foot pole if he gets any higher than that. Let's move on. Let's talk about Luis Heel returning from injury. And boy, did he return from injury. I really, really got nothing bad to say about the kid. It kind of did what I think he was going to do if he would have played a full season. 57 innings pitched, 41 strikeouts, a 3.32 ERA with a 1.40 whip. Now, the whip's high. I get that. He's returning. I believe it's from Tommy John, if I'm not mistaken. He missed a good chunk of time. And it could have been a shoulder injury, but things just take a little bit to get back in together because he really didn't pitch much this year. And you look under the hood, too, and, this is where things kind of get interesting. Now, I'm going to give him a little bit of a pass, but I ain't drafted him high. And I hope that the price doesn't get that high because he will have to fall on the bust list. 95-mile-an-hour fastball, always something great he can lean on. But that 3.32 ERA is super hollow. Expected ERA is 4.96. The FIP was in the mid-4s. Those are not good numbers to have backing up and saying not supporting your ERA. Then you look at how often he struck guys out, which was 16% at the time, and then walk guys 13.5%. Honestly, those two alone are just like catastrophic for a guy trying to suppress runs and keep his ERA down. That's how I know the 3.32 ERA isn't sustainable. Quality contact 8.3% of the time, with a barrel percentage of that high is not good. Along with hard hit percentage 42.6%, and produces ground balls at 32%. It's just not great overall. Luis Gil as a whole, we're gonna have to cool on a little bit and see. I understand he's coming back from injury and things like that, but ultimately, based off of looking at him, really breaking him down, there is some room for grace and there's some room for fear. So let's hope that the price doesn't get outrageous because of the name in the 2024 season. Doesn't really drive up his price too much, because then we can't touch him with a 10-foot pole. We'll see. He list this year for me. I just hope not, because I do want to get some shares. Guys, thank you for hanging out with me, and please like, subscribe, comment, rate, review, and do everything you can to share the show, because we truly love bringing it to you each and every day. And thank you for making Locked On Fantasy Baseball your first listen today. And for your second listen, check out our all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get your local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Peace out, guys.